have to start wrapping this up before my camera dies. Why is my computer not plugged in? They had their parts in the right place. Let's try this. One more test video. Okay, so, okay. Alright, hey everyone. Today we're going to talk about my bipolar journey, getting a diagnosis for bipolar 1 disorder. And I guess I should just say, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about manic episodes, paranoia, delusions, depression, the occasional suicidal ideation, so just trigger warning. As per usual, I've done a TikTok on this already, so here's that. Okay, I'm going to talk about my experience getting diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Looking back now, I've had symptoms for almost my entire life, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 19 years old. But I suspected the second half of my first year of college when I was 18, and that's a whole story for another time. So when I started to bring it up to friends and family members, I got a lot of invalidation, hey, don't say stuff like that, blah blah blah. So I put it to rest and didn't think about it, but 6 months later I started keeping a mood journal. And when I was 19, I went to my campus psychiatrist and told her what was going on. Based on what I was feeling, she put me on some antipsychotics to try. And I didn't tell anyone except the guy I was dating at the time. When I went back a few weeks later, I asked her, hey, so these worked, does that mean what I think it does? And she confirmed yes, that I had bipolar 1 disorder. I still didn't tell anyone for a couple weeks after my diagnosis, and I was met with a lot of resistance. My family members felt bad that they didn't see it, but I stuck with it, and eventually everyone finally accepted the truth. But I could have gotten treatment a whole year earlier if I had just listened to myself. I've done a TikTok on what to expect getting diagnosed, so here's that. Okay, I get this question a lot. How do I approach getting a diagnosis from a doctor/professional? First, you need to educate yourself on the symptoms you're having. Don't self-diagnose, but become aware of some disorders that you feel like you might resonate with and see if there are any other symptoms in that disorder that you think you just didn't know how to verbalize. Now you have a basic idea of what you're thinking of, it's time to keep a mood journal. I did a TikTok on this yesterday, so go watch that for more specifics. If you don't want an actual journal, there's plenty of apps that you can use on your phone to keep track of your moods. How you go about this next kind of depends on where you are and what you've got. If you have good insurance, you can start with your primary care doctor and they can refer you to someone. If you're still having trouble verbalizing all of your symptoms and what you're feeling, go to a therapist. If you're a student at a university, take advantage of your counseling and psychiatry offices. If you don't have insurance and you're kind of poor, you can typically find an interning therapist who does therapy for free. Take your mood journal to them. You may not get a diagnosis right away, it will take some time. Feel free to ask questions. Then here's a bit of my personal journey getting diagnosed, so here's that. Okay, I've been seeing a lot of comments like these and I'm really sad to see them, but I'm going to talk about it. Part of the journey of figuring out whether you have a mood disorder or not is talking to other people and getting invalidated. When I brought it up to some close friends and family members a year before I got diagnosed, I got a lot of invalidation. Well, you're not as extreme as people with bipolar, as if one shoe size fits all. No, don't even speak that into existence, don't say that. Ma'am, if I have it, I already have it. And they meant well, but it is so damaging to hear, and I'm so sorry to anybody who has to deal with that. My mom is a therapist. A therapist. Now, I love my mother dearly, but she did not want to accept my diagnosis. But I stuck with it. I calmly explained every single time, and I shouldn't have had to. But I did. I explained my symptoms and I explained the diagnostic criteria, and I had to explain to them not everybody who has bipolar disorder is going to do extreme things, but it's extreme for them. Now everyone believes me. And everyone gets it. They look back at my life and they're like, oh yeah, now I totally see it. You may get invalidated at first, but stick with it. Okay, so as I said in the TikTok, looking back, I think I started showing signs of bipolar back in 5th grade. I actually had suicidal thoughts in 5th grade for a period of time because there was lots of stuff going on. But typically 5th graders don't Typically 5th graders don't feel suicidal, so that was definitely a sign that something was wrong, but everyone ignored that, so it's fine. I'm just gonna warn you guys, I am going to be making lots of jokes in this video. It helps me cope, because bipolar is not easy. Figuring out that you have it is not easy. Learning to live with it is not easy. It's just, it's not easy. So, as I said, I started showing signs in 5th grade, but I've always had Trouble sleeping. Took me a while to fall asleep. Always woke up early, like 6 or 7. Woke up a lot through the night. Would never be able to sleep late. If I went to bed at 3, I was gonna wake up at 6 no matter what. So episodes started becoming more clear to me in about 7th grade, I want to say. And I'm just gonna go through the episodes I think I was having up until I was diagnosed, just to give you an idea of what I was dealing with, what maybe you could look out for in your own childhood, or just so you guys kind of understand what prompted me to think I might have bipolar and go get a diagnosis. I distinctly remember in 7th grade going off on this girl who talked to the boyfriend I had at the time. I was 12, by the way, and I should not have been dating anyone, but anyways, I went off on her. It was mean what I said to her, and not something I would ever do. I am not like that. So it was abnormal. That's why I'm pointing it out, because part of bipolar is abnormal behavior and moodiness, and so I was moody. And I apologized to her. I was like, I'm so sorry, I must be on my period. And she was like, okay, you know, it's okay. But I remember being irritable, and I remember fighting a lot with the boyfriend I had at the time for no real reason, but being a teenager is tough, and mood swings and irritability are normal. So I think everyone just thought it was kind of normal, but the type of person that I am, it was not. So moving on, I will say in 7th and 8th grade, I was a tough girl. Hit a tomboy phase 8th grade. I was very sensitive. I acted tough, so people would leave me alone because I was really sensitive. But freshman year of high school, I decided I wanted to be nice and I wanted people to like me, so naturally I became a doormat, people pleaser. the best thing I ever did. I think I hit a depressive episode my freshman year. Now, I was dating a different boy for like a year. It was a unhealthy, toxic relationship as per high school normal, or at least my high school normal. Anyways, it started as a depressive episode, but I think it became a mixed episode because I would sleep anywhere between 1 hour to 6, maybe 7 on the weekend, maybe. But it was usually about 5 or 6 hours a night, which is not enough, especially not for a teenager. Like, they're supposed to sleep like twice that. That was definitely a sign that something was wrong, was my sleep schedule. I just did not sleep well ever. I do want to say, not only did I have terrible sleeping habits, like I just didn't need to sleep, but I tried to make myself. I had anxiety, so it took me forever to fall asleep, as you guys probably know how that is. That's still how it is for me. Although now I take meds for that. The thing about it is I always made myself go to sleep. Like, I tried so hard. I'd take Benadryl, I'd take melatonin, I would make myself go to sleep, even though I didn't really need to. Like, I didn't have the urge to sleep, but I had this anxiety about not sleeping because I felt like it was gonna be the end of the world if I didn't get enough sleep, because my mom made sleep sound like really important, which it is. At the time, I just was kind of paranoid if I didn't get enough sleep that the world would end. So I always made myself sleep, which is great, because if not, I probably would have gone days without sleeping, or days without sleeping more than 1 to 2 hours. I probably would have started hallucinating, but actually, maybe I would have gotten a diagnosis all those years ago. That was definitely a sign I was having a mixed episode then. Then I moved schools, actually. Broke up with that boyfriend. Sophomore year, we moved schools. I definitely think I hit a manic episode. I say that because, again, the sleeping was bad. I had a lot of self-destructive behaviors. It was a rough time my sophomore year. But I say that about every year, so. Moved schools again. Started dating a new boy before I moved schools, and then I moved to a different school. And then junior year, new school, that was rough because I had a lot of anxiety, and I think I was in a depressive episode. I was sleeping a lot, actually, but it was never enough. Like, I say sleeping a lot. I was sleeping like 8 hours every night, which was a lot for me. I was really depressed, and I just didn't have a lot of motivation, but I had a lot of anxiety, so I was always on edge. I had a lot of anxiety about performing in school, so I always did good in school. No, I was really depressed. Broke up with that boyfriend. Yeah, there was a lot going on junior year. But there was also a lot going on freshman and sophomore year, so I mean, it is what it is. But senior year, despite the fact that there were still things going on, it was less so. And I actually had a few months of normalcy my senior year. I got 9 hours of sleep every night, I was exercising, I was eating right, I was happy, mostly. Again, there were still things going on, but it was a lot better than it had been. And then, lo and behold, I got back with sophomore boyfriend. Yeah, it started getting worse from there. and then I guess it triggered some sort of mixed episode because of late night arguments, you know. And this is all just like what I remember from high school. I don't remember a lot because of dissociation from anxiety, memory loss from depression and mania, and just general trauma. So yeah, I don't remember a whole lot from high school. That's why I'm giving you bullet points. Like, I say that there are things going on. I don't remember what was going on, but I know something was going on. Continued on until after I graduated, and then I broke up with that boyfriend over the summer, and that summer just continued to get worse. I probably had the most self-destructive behaviors ever. Yeah, it was awful. It was like a huge mixed episode fever dream. But I made it out alive, and I started college the next semester. I did go to a therapist on campus, but the thing about the on-campus therapists is that they're there for like, I miss my parents, I'm having a lot of anxiety, I'm not doing well in school, in school. In school, obviously had bigger issues going on. But, you know, I tried it out for a couple sessions, and there was more things going on that semester. It just gets better and better every time. And I was definitely in a manic episode because I distinctly remember thinking there was ringworm all over my body because I had one little case of it on my stomach. But I got paranoid and delusional about that it was all over my body. So that was definitely a sign that I was manic. It was at this point that I started to suspect something bigger was at play, because I remember a few days where my sleep got bad again, probably at the beginning of a manic episode. I told the therapist, and she said, oh, well, it sounds like just leftover adrenaline from that confrontation with your family member. Like, what? Okay. So I stopped going to her second semester, freshman year. I must have still been in a manic episode because I had convinced myself this time that I had breast cancer for like a solid week. Like, I was crying about it. It was like a whole ordeal, but I didn't tell anyone except for one friend. And she somehow made it clear to me that I didn't, because I didn't have breast cancer. So there was that, and then there was also, I was hanging out with this guy who's not important enough to be mentioned, but he mentioned that he had dated a girl who had bipolar disorder. And I thought to myself, very seriously, I thought, that's kind of weird because most people have a type. Yeah, they do. Thanks, dude. Thanks for helping me figure it out. Anyways, I started to look into bipolar disorder, but I didn't know that mixed episodes were a thing, and I definitely am more prone to those, and so it was confusing. So I thought maybe the combination of my general depression, anxiety, and trauma affected it to where it was a little different. And when I brought it up to a close family member and a close friend, I generally got invalidation, no, that can't be, no, you're not that extreme, no, you're not that crazy, and don't speak that into existence, which, like, their hearts were in the right place, but it was not helpful. And I probably would have gone and gotten treatment like a whole year earlier than I did. But it's fine. There is no threshold of extreme behavior for which you have to cross in order to be diagnosed bipolar, because it affects everyone differently. And second of all, you're not crazy if you have bipolar disorder. You have a literal mental illness, like. Anyways, so not encouraging. At that point, it also had been discovered my oldest brother had been diagnosed with bipolar 2. Like, number 2, not also, because he was diagnosed first. And hearing that, I became more concerned for myself. Now, when I brought this up to my mother, she just didn't want me to have bipolar disorder, which, like, that's a whole other thing, parental guilt and whatnot. Then, my dad passed away right after exams. It's my second semester, freshman year. And so my oldest brother, the one who was diagnosed with bipolar 2, came and picked me up and took me to our other brothers so we could console each other, I guess. And I stayed the night at my oldest brother's house. Like, I slept on his couch, and I mentioned the next morning how I only got, I don't know, like 4, maybe 6 hours of sleep. And I was like, yeah, I just don't need a lot of sleep. And he's like, yeah, I used to be like that before I got on medication for bipolar. And I was just sitting there, I was like what? Just said it so casually, and like, he's not wrong, obviously, but still. Anyways, so that brought it up again, and at this point I was like, okay, this might be it. This might be the thing. But again, I had started dating a new boyfriend, At that, literally around the same, my dad passed away. I entered a manic episode over the summer. I did start keeping a mood journal. I still wasn't sure if it was bipolar disorder, but I didn't know what else it could be at this point. I thought it was probably bipolar 2, but I mean, like, I've never done anything like spend thousands of dollars or do really extreme things. That was just not me. I had a lot of anxiety. I would like to point out I had so much anxiety. I was afraid to do anything. I was afraid to get in trouble. So there's a reason I didn't do anything extreme up until I like completely lost any semblance of taking care of myself the summer after I graduated high school. I definitely did some extreme things then, but somehow I didn't think that was extreme, which should have been a sign. The turning point was I talked to this girl I knew from high school on Twitter because she was open how she had bipolar disorder. That changed everything. That she helped me so much. She told me about mixed episodes, which made everything make sense. She told me about, you know, you can get on the right medication, here's what it's like. I was telling her what I was dealing with. She's like, yeah, that sounds like this. You should go get checked. And so I did. I finally made an appointment like a week before the semester started, and I also talked to my oldest brother about it and told him what I was feeling, the things that didn't make sense that I was feeling, and he's like, oh yeah, that's definitely part of it. I was like, oh, okay. So went to the psychiatrist. I was a nervous wreck. I was so anxious. I was on the verge of tears the entire time because I went to the wrong building, and then I got there barely on time, almost crying because I was just so anxious, and I was still manic. It was just that the mania was getting really bad and it was getting scary, and so that's ultimately is what made me decide to make an appointment with an on-campus psychiatrist because that's so much cheaper. I didn't have insurance at the time because my family didn't have insurance, so welcome to the United States. So I went, I was sitting in there talking so fast and explaining to her what I was dealing with, and she said, okay, well, you came to me, I'm a psychiatrist, I give medication. I'm assuming you want medication. And I said, yes. She put me on 50 milligrams of quetiapine, brand name Seroquel, which is, I still take that. She said, take this for either a few days or the first week, take 50 milligrams, and then after that, take 2 tablets, so 100 milligrams. And actually, when I made this appointment, I didn't tell anyone except maybe my brother and the guy I was dating at the time. I had never felt so quote-unquote normal in my life, and it wasn't even a high enough dosage. It was just a little, but I already felt that much better. It was an antipsychotic because antipsychotics because I had described more paranoia, anxiety, and dissociation. But antipsychotics help with that more, and usually you can either do an antipsychotic or a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant, but not just an antidepressant. Again, I talked about that in my last video. Antipsychotic really helped so much. I had never slept so well in my life. I had never felt so calm, even though I still wasn't like as calm as I am now, but I felt so much better. It was the best decision I ever made. It quite literally saved my life several times being on that medication. I went back a week or 2 later and she said, okay, is it helping? And I said, yes, so much. And she said, okay. So I kind of prompted, I was like, so do I have bipolar disorder? No, I was just like, okay, so does this confirm that I have bipolar disorder? She said, yes. And I said, which type? She was like, how long did you say your last manic episode went? And I said it was approaching a week. She said bipolar 1. And I think that surprised me because I didn't think my manic episodes were as extreme or intense as other people's. But now I just think that was like, I just didn't know the difference between normal behavior and manic behavior because I've been dealing with this literally since 5th grade, so I got my diagnosis and I got on medication and things started to get so much better. I go every 2 months to get checked. She'd make sure I'm not having an episode, make sure I'm not having side effects with medication. I get my vitals checked, I get my blood checked every few months. Now, I was on 100 milligrams then. I'm on 350 milligrams now. Every time we've gone up on a dosage, it's been 50 milligrams, meaning I've gone up on my dosage 5 times since August last year because I started having episodes. 5. Oh my god, I had 5 episodes. That's rapid cycling for you. Wow, okay, I didn't realize. Yeah, my psychiatrist did not diagnose me the first time. She waited to see if the medication worked, and I needed the medication, and it helped me a lot, and now I'm on the right dosage, I think, so far, and we've also added some anti-anxiety meds, which have helped so much. Psychiatrists are cautious when diagnosing something as serious as bipolar disorder, especially if you're under 18. Just be aware of that. I'm really glad that she did diagnose me and did put me on medication. So yeah, I didn't tell anyone for like a week or two after getting diagnosed. Most people, the close family members I had, didn't want to hear it. In that they said, no, that can't be, that's not right, like you're not like that. My own mother, a therapist, and I love her and she accepts it now, but she did not want to hear it because it made her feel guilty, like she didn't notice my entire life. So she didn't want to hear that that was the case. Now everyone like understands now, like looking back, my mom's like, wow, I don't know how I didn't notice. Thanks, Mom. It was something I didn't want to tell anyone for a while. Now, obviously, I'm open about it. Well, I will say it's different telling people you're getting to know versus telling the internet, because the majority of my audience has a mental illness, mostly bipolar, right? So it's different telling people that I'm getting to know. I'm working on it, on accepting. It's a journey, and that's what this whole video is about my journey. So that was my experience getting diagnosed. Since then, I have learned so much about bipolar disorder because my psychiatrist did not tell me anything about it, to be honest, and that's unfortunately normal. I've done most of the research myself and through trial and error trying to understand what I'm feeling, and it's gotten a lot easier. Right now I am episode free, which is kind of crazy in a good way. I'm really grateful because August was rough for me. I was hitting a mixed episode for sure, but I made it out and everything is okay, and it will be okay. And it will continue to be okay every time it is not okay. One of the reasons I kept having to go up on a higher dosage was building tolerance to the medication, and in general, just not being on a high enough dose. At 200 to 400 milligrams is like the normal range for bipolar disorder dosage. I've never missed a dose of my medication ever, and I refuse to because I spiral really badly. I have episodes even on medication. It's not fun and it progressively gets worse, so I definitely take my medication seriously. But I also have a super fun, stressful, triggering life, which I've worked on. I broke up with that boyfriend in January, rearranged my room, cleaned it out, dyed my hair, cut my hair. I was in a manic episode. I have worked this entire last year on being okay, eating right, going to sleep at the same time every night, prioritizing my sleep over everyone else. If you're on the right medication, combo and dosage, you should not have an episode, but it takes a while to get to the right combination sometimes. Took a year for me. And I don't even know if I have the right one, but it's fine. I do have episodes though on medication. It's very watered down, it's much more manageable. So in general, it's a good idea. It's a good idea to get on medication. I will say one thing that really triggered my episodes was anxiety, and now I take buspirone. I take 10 milligrams every morning and evening, and it has helped so much. I feel like a normal human being. I wish I would have taken anxiety meds back in junior high. I did go to a therapist a few months after getting diagnosed because you can take medication as much as you want, but if you have a lot of triggers, you're gonna have triggered episodes, and I had a lot of trauma. I still do, which is why I'm going back to therapy. But for 4 months, I did something called EMDR therapy, which is a way to process trauma out of your body physically. It's like magic, honestly. And after 4 months, I ran out of things to talk about, which is a good sign. At that point, that therapist had helped me get through a lot of trauma, and she discharged me from therapy because she didn't think that I needed her anymore. I've had 2 episodes from then, and a whole lot of crazy stuff happened, so I'm going back, which is fine. I'm sure I'll do some sort of therapy my entire life because I have bipolar disorder. It's not easy, and I also have trauma. That's my journey, and the thing about journeys is that they don't really ever end. I'm sure I will continue to learn more about bipolar disorder for the rest of my life. There are lulls in time when life is okay, and then there are times when the cycle gets crazy and episodes are triggered. I will have to deal with episodes probably for the rest of my life. Definitely not as bad as they used to be and not as often, and I'll know how to take care of myself. Something as serious and intense as bipolar disorder needs attention. That means taking care of yourself, taking medication, going to therapy. It's important, and I encourage you guys to do the same because that has changed things, everything for me. I used to just think about life as something to survive, and now it's something I live and I enjoy it. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching, and I think the next part of my journey is learning to accept bipolar as part of my life. It does not define me, but it is part of my journey, and it is okay to be a work in progress. Thank you for watching. If you haven't seen my other video about Bipolar 101, definitely go check that out so you know what I'm talking about. And then the one after that, I did talk about genetics and what causes bipolar disorder. So that's really helpful, really informational. I think next week I'm going to post something lighthearted and fun, not so serious and intense as bipolar, because I think we all need a break sometimes. Look forward to that. It's gonna be some chaotic fun energy of me and my cousin Gabrielle, which you've seen before in my piercings video. This is when we went grocery shopping back in January before the pandemic. It's gonna be funny and stupid, and I think we could all use that every now and then. Comment down below if you have any questions or if you have a topic you'd like me to cover in a video. So yes, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a good week.